Dan Cooper has a briefcase. There's a bomb in it. But Dan Cooper isn't his name. And the bomb in the briefcase, in all likelihood, isn't even a real bomb. We're in 1971. Richard Nixon is the President of the United States, and Mick Jagger is the President of the rest of the world. The Stones dominate the charts with Gimme Shelter. The first email in history is sent through ARPANET, and a man at the Portland Airport in Oregon buys a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington. That man's name is Dan Cooper, and in the next 50 years, there will be a lot of talk about him. This is a fascinating story in so many ways. Some cases, especially the most memorable ones, are often bloody. But this one, the case of Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, is not. It has a legendary aura, in black and white, so to speak. And although hundreds of newspaper articles have been written and entire discussion groups are still dedicated to the case today, there is little to none information about it. What we are sure of is that at the counter of Northwest Orient Airlines, a man in his 40s shows up. He is well dressed, no particular signs. He will always be described like this. A mother-of-pearl tie-pin is his only distinguishing feature. Once he has bought his ticket, shortly after, he boards the plane with 36 other passengers. He will order a drink, bourbon and soda, twice at least. This is 1971 and people can smoke cigarettes on airplanes. Dan Cooper smokes, even though he doesn't look nervous. He will never look nervous throughout the story. He's always calm, collected. Even when he passes a handwritten note to a stewardess. There is no good news on that note. Mr. Cooper has a bomb and begs the stewardess to stay calm and to inform the captain of the plane about the situation. As Flight 305 is now high in the sky, Mr. Cooper opens his briefcase just enough to show the stewardess that he's not bluffing. She sees what seem to be electrical wires connected to batteries. It's a bomb, or at least it really looks like one. She's not an expert, and fear convinces her not to wonder if the bomb is real or not. Just as any other passenger is ordering food or maybe a drink, Cooper orders $200,000. $200,000, 2 parachutes, and a fuel truck to refuel Flight 305 upon landing. Otherwise, it will detonate the bomb he has in the briefcase. What he doesn't reveal yet is the final destination of the plane. The captain notifies the Tacoma airport, which immediately turns to the FBI. And the FBI says it takes time to evaluate an intervention strategy. They need the plane to stay up a little longer. The delay will be justified to the passengers with a small mechanical problem. Eventually, the FBI reassures Cooper. He will get both the money and the parachutes he asked for. But in the meantime, they have one and one only question on their mind. Who is the man on Northwest Orient Airline Flight 305 threatening to detonate a bomb? Who is Dan Cooper? Keep in mind this is 1971. Airport security is very far from what we are used to today. There are no images of him. He has no particular signs. His motive is not political, and he seems to have a precise plan. He's not improvising. As opposed to the Dog Day Afternoon's Robbers, for example. A great movie that will be released a few years later. But this story feels like a movie too. Cooper never loses his cool, to the point that when Flight 305 lands at Seattle Airport, none of the passengers has yet realized what danger they're in. The hijacking goes on, and little by little, we get to know a bit more about its protagonist. He's not just calm and controlled, he's smart. Very smart. The plane, at his request, is taken to an isolated area of the airport, and all the window curtains are pulled down. He doesn't want a sniper or even an observer from the FBI to be able to see him, take a picture of him, to know where he is or what he's doing. Passengers are allowed to get off the plane only after the ransom money is on board, along with the parachutes, 4 in total. Part of the crew also leaves the plane. Only 4 of them and Mr. Cooper stay on board. And this is the right time for him to show another of his talents. He knows a lot about plane routes. While the plane is being refueled, he explains what the final destination of the flight will be: Mexico. It will be easy to think that a foreign country, where the jurisdiction of the FBI has its hands tied, is ideal for landing, reuniting with accomplices, and then disappear. If we don't take into account the parachutes that Cooper got delivered, of course. 2 hours pass between the release of the hostages, who are most likely now being interrogated one by one, the delivery of the money, which is now in a bag on the seat next to Cooper's, refueling the plane, and taking off. The course is clear, but something goes wrong. Cooper's last request is for the plane to fly at low altitudes. When an aircraft flies below certain altitudes, there is no need to pressurize the cabin, and this means being able to easily open one of its doors and maybe jump from it. The Boeing 727 thereon has an air stair right below the tail. Cooper wants the door open and the stair extended. And the plane must fly at low speed. But taking off with the rear exit door open is too dangerous, he's told. Cooper doesn't insist. And in any case, with that flight configuration, they will have to stop somewhere else for further refueling. Reno, Nevada. There are now only 5 people on board. And while the plane is taking off, one of them has to deal with the fact that his plan, as insane as it may have sounded when he thought of it the first time, is actually working. The other 4 keep calm. They follow orders, hope to get back home alive. And even when they're told to lock themselves in the cockpit and leave that man and his bomb alone in the plane, they comply. But it's not unlikely that they're fearing the worst. It is 8 p.m. The plane is flying toward Nevada, a low altitude about 3,000 meters, through heavy rain, and night and darkness are coming. In the distance, 2 military fighters follow. The captain sees the light indicating the deploying of the air stair come on. Cooper must have opened the rear door. There is in fact a slight difference in pressure. Nothing to worry about, though. They're near Washington. It's about 8:15. They will arrive in Reno 2 hours later and without any incident. The story of Dan Cooper and Flight 305 feels like a thriller, a good thriller. Hitchcock would have loved the script, but it is an actual ongoing crime, which has its exquisite plot twist when the plane lands in Reno. The FBI and police officers, who have been there for hours, are probably waiting to know what the hijackers' next move will be. And so do the 4 staff members still locked in the cockpit and unaware of what is happening outside. The plane stops, and the policemen and agents decide to break into it armed. There is silence in the aisle of the plane. There is an ashtray with the smoldering remains of a few cigarettes and some bourbon at the bottom of a glass. Dan Cooper, the note he passed to the stewardess, the bomb, the money, and the parachutes, however, have disappeared. He left his tie, though. And if the hijacking, or Norjack, Northwest hijacking, as it will be called from now on, is over, the investigation begins right now, and it will last almost half a century. Years of guesswork, theories, and very few clues. Has Dan Cooper really managed to launch and land unscathed? At night, in heavy rain and wind? Jumping with a parachute in those conditions is risky even for experts, even for those who are equipped to do it. And Cooper wasn't. Simulations are run to pinpoint the exact spot where Cooper might have landed, assuming he made it, of course. Otherwise, rather than a fugitive, they should be looking for a body. But there is no trace of a body, just as there are no traces of the parachute, the bomb, and the money. The money, that's another puzzle. A few banknotes of the $200,000 ransom are found, yes, but many years later in a very bad state. The serial numbers confirm that it is the hijacked money. What happened to it? Where's the rest of it? It won't ever be found. The accomplices. Assuming he had any, this too will remain a mystery for half a century. No one is identified. Hundreds of suspects, no one is linked to this crime. It is likely that Cooper, however, had someone on the ground ready to pick him up, although the landing site was hard, if not impossible, for him to estimate with accuracy. The Dan Cooper case in 1971 makes headlines. News agency will even manage to get his name wrong, confusing him with one of the suspects. But they will never stop talking about the case. They will call him D.B. Cooper. And still today, on his 50th anniversary, it is such an interesting case. Perhaps the only one where a criminal got on a plane with a ticket he paid $20 for and got off the plane with $200,000 and got away with it without getting identified, let alone get caught. Leaving behind no clues, just passengers and aircraft personnel terrified by the experience, of course, who all provided one unambiguous description of the hijacker. A man in his 40s, well-dressed, no particular signs, a nobody. Whom, if he were still alive today, if his plan had really worked, would be a wealthy 90 years old, who in the attic, among old souvenirs, has a dusty parachute. A 90 years old who, up until 2016, was still hunted by the FBI. That year, in fact, the FBI announced that they wanted to reallocate the resources from the D.B. Cooper case to other more urgent cases. The case is not closed, however, and it is not even for the public. There are dozens of discussion groups about the case and thousands of articles have been written, especially in the last month, since 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the hijacking of Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. The ending of the story is completely open, to finally uncover the truth about a nobody and what happened to him, Dan Cooper, last in the sky of Washington, at night, with a bag full of money. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. Comment, of course, and subscribe if you like. Thank you for listening. I'm your uncle.